Fans can be annoying to their celebrity idols in all sorts of ways, everything from an extreme of stalking them to lighter infractions, such as making recommendations on improving the craft and art and genius they ostensibly admire so much. So when I emailed John McWhorter recommendations on his own use of the English language, perhaps in the bigger picture it wasn't too obnoxious, but I give myself points. And that's what I'd like to share today. Welcome to the Bald and Bloviating Podcast. I'm your bald host, Mookie Spitz, and I'll be bloviating about the number one mistake I think writers make with the English language, one that's so ubiquitous, if not egregious, that an American linguistic expert such as John McWhorter, associate professor of linguistics at Columbia, prolific writer, and celebrity professor. You see him everywhere. You see him on Bill Maher. You see him all over the news shows, especially when he publishes one of his many great books, of which his latest one, Pronoun Trouble, the story of us in 7 little words, is just out April 1st, April Fool's Day, and he has been making the rounds. So seeing him on TV, hearing him on podcasts, I was reminded of an email that I had sent him about 1 year ago, March 7th, 2024, that I had sent to his New York Times email address at the bottom of his regular column with the subject line that read, "Please, please, please stop using the passive voice, John." And the contents was basically, "I adore your writing and overall POV." I didn't think to say, "Dear John." Anyway, "I adore your writing and overall POV. You have an Achilles heel, though, John. The passive voice. I had a terrific English teacher in middle school who gave me the best writing advice ever. Don't use it is, there is, it was, there was in your writing. Edit them out. Change sentences to get rid of them. Writing instantly becomes more powerful. Try it, John. I apologize if I sound condescending or patronizing, but seriously, keep doing what you're doing. You're one of my many intellectual heroes, but stop using the passive voice. Your fan, Mookie Spitz. Now, this moved me to the point where a few minutes later, I wrote a blog post on Medium about this very subject. After which, I wrote John again with the subject line, "It is, there is, hater again." The contents of which read, "Hi, John." I guess I got more formal the second time through. "I emailed you earlier today about using the passive voice. You're obviously a terrific writer, but I truly think your it is habit is an Achilles heel. The rant inspired a blog post in case you're curious." And then I put in the link. "Seriously, give it a try. Nuclear it is, there is, ellipsis, smiley face, colon, parentheses, MS." Well, needless to say, Professor McWhorter never responded to my thoughtful email recommendation. But the blog post still stands. I still see it is, there is, it was, there was, not only all over the internet and in print, but John didn't get the message. Although I have to say, maybe a month or two subsequent of me sending these emails and writing that blog post and being thoughtful enough to include that link of my blog post in my email, I did notice that John dropped the passive voice construction, at least more than he usually did, but he seems to have picked it up all over again. So this one's for you, John, and it's also for anyone else listening to avoid the biggest and most common writing mistake, a grammatical scourge that weakens even the best writers. Are you ready? Here goes. A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens begins with poetic intensity. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. Dickens' juxtaposition of opposites continues a striking cadence. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. The passive voice then returns with a poetic coup de grace. There were a king with a large jaw and a queen with a plain face on the throne of England. There were a king with a large jaw and a queen with a fair face on the throne of France. Powerful, memorable, classic. And now, I'll argue, perhaps the most destructive few sentences in the canon of English literature. And here's why. Their resonance has embroiled use of the passive voice into generations of writers, weakening prose and worsening language. Let me tell you a little bit about the best teacher I ever had. I don't remember her name or even which grade level in middle school I took her class. I barely remember what she looked like and dimly recall her classroom was cramped and had few, if any, windows. I retain, though, two foundational elements of good writing that I got from her. The first, strategic, the second, tactical. Millions of words later, my Amazon Basics keyboard here, my favorite, pretty much pummeled into oblivion, I realized that was all I needed. Good writing, she taught, was convincing writing. That meant good writers wrote with intention. That, in turn, demanded clarity and structure. She encouraged us to read Time magazines, the essays, other examples where we should deconstruct how the writer approached their topic and assess whether or not their opinions were substantiated by what they wrote and how. She shared her logical and symmetrical essay blueprint, opening paragraph beginning with a compelling general statement driving to a specific thesis statement, followed by supporting paragraphs with their own thesis statements and supporting sentences, culminating in a summarizing closing paragraph, landing at a powerful generality. Tactically, she also implored us to dive into raw syntax. She demonstrated how redundancy and the passive voice were the biggest enemies of good writing, also their most common. Applying everything she taught to reinforce it, she made us write and rewrite our sentences, deleting extraneous words and phrases, making our voice as active as possible. Now, here's her most effective best practice. Ms. X, the universe bless her soul, resonates in my mind and heart to this day. I visualize her standing in front of us, laying down a simple, direct, and seemingly pointless rule as if it were a royal decree, papal mandate, or categorical imperative. Never use these phrases, she announced. It is, it was, there was. Your writing is always better without them. Practicing what she preached, she red circled all such uses of the passive voice in our essay drafts and made us rewrite the sentences without them. Many of us complained that the exercise was not only useless, but vexingly difficult to execute. Undaunted, she'd read sentences aloud. It was a rainy night. What was? It was? The night was rainy, right? So just write that. Oh my fucking God, she was so right. No better advice ever given any writer. Unlike the other lectures I slept through, hers not only kept me awake, but instilled in me best practices. And this best practice I zealously follow to this day. Not only is my own writing more effective, but I see even accomplished writers, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, John, weakened by the it is, there is passive voice Achilles heel. A musical analogy is apropos. Years ago, I saw a classic rock cover band with an otherwise stellar guitar player who had a critical flaw. He used zero vibrato. Never missing a note, his range vast, he played with no feeling, like a robot. He had it all, but the tiny glitch of never twisting his wrist, making the tone of his notes go sharp and go flat with those microtonal little emotional flourishes, flattened his notes and his whole performance. Don't be that guy. The key takeaway here is never, ever use it is, it was, there was in your writing. Just like Ms. X, the teacher I don't remember aside from her terrific advice, rewrite the sentence until you've gotten rid of them. Voila! Doesn't matter what you're writing, your writing will automatically be better, and there are zero, oops, I said it, there are zero exceptions. That's a little awkward, but you know what I mean. Don't believe me? Pay attention to other writers, especially otherwise good ones. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, John, who habitually use the passive voice. Compare them to those who never do. The difference is like music with and without a soul, and I won't be that harsh. John, for example, is a wonderful writer, but that's why I'm nitpicking. He could be so much better a writer without falling prey to this lazy passive voice construct. Now let's go revisit Mr. Dickens himself and rewrite one of the most famous opening sentences of English literature. Are you ready? The best of times, the worst of times, the age of wisdom, the age of foolishness, the epoch of belief, the epoch of incredulity, the season of light, the season of darkness, the spring of hope, the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. A king with a large jaw and a queen with a plain face on the throne of England. A king with a large jaw and a queen with a fair face on the throne of France. You're welcome. Thank you for that. And John, if you're listening, seriously, bro, you don't need that. Keep doing what you're doing. And I love your cultural and political observations too. Anyway, thanks for listening to the Bald and Bloviating podcast. I couldn't help but lay this one out when I was hearing John on the Preet Bharara podcast earlier today, and I remembered these emails, and I remembered this blog, and I keep seeing the scourge of it is and it was and there is and there was, and every time I see it, I rewrite the sentence in my head to make it better. And I see the face of Ms. X, the teacher from middle school, giving me an appreciative wink and a smile and an index finger pointing at me to do my homework. Thanks for listening.